Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing very well today. As you saw in the thumbnail, today I'm going to try to install one of the most unique and interesting trem systems I have ever seen. I mean, this thing just looks unlike any trem system I've ever put on a guitar. And if you're a longtime viewer of the channel, you know I've probably done, I don't know, 8 to 10 different trem systems for Strats and that kind of thing. This one's definitely a little different. These are all springs. So what we're going to do is, find out, number one, what this is. We're going to try to install it here on my Tele. It's going to be pretty interesting. It is fully removable without modding your guitar. So if you install it and then down the road you want to sell your guitar or whatever, you can pull the trem system off, put the stock hardware on, and it looks exactly perfect. What I'm going to do is remove the strings off the Tele, pull the bridge off, and then we'll jump in and start the install. All right, you guys, so I've pulled the strings off the Tele. I've loosened up the 4 screws that hold down the bridge plate and loosened up the pickup. We'll hop over to the desk and take a look at that in a second. But here are the 3 pieces to this system. Obviously, piece number 1, the bridge plate, some nice compensated brass saddles, I've got to say there as well. And then you can also see the screw-in arm. And of course, our little springs there. Here's a clue as to what system it is. See if the camera will grab that. VT. Any guesses? I've used these guys before. And the 3rd piece of the puzzle is the new plate. And as I mentioned, it is easily removable, and it's not a permanent mod. So VT is Vegatrem. Yes, one of my favorite Stratocaster trem systems. They just released this new system. Looks crazy. We're just gonna go, totally unprompted, install this thing, see how it goes. And then of course, if all goes well, we'll do some playing and test it out. But let's hop over to the desk and talk installation. Right, so with the strings off, the bridge comes off very, very easily. You just loosen your 3 screws holding the pickup on, and then there's 4 screws that anchor it into the body, as you can see right there. So super easy, just grab a screwdriver, pull those 4 screws out, loosen up your pickup selectors, and of course we are going to be using the same pickup. So grab your springs and whatever else, because of course, yes, we will be reusing all these parts. And if you have a ground wire, just be careful of it. Make note of it. Sometimes just a piece of tape, like painter's tape over there, just so it doesn't get wrecked or whatever, is a good idea. But yeah, bear in mind that ground wire is important. Okay, so let's start with the new system. Now, there's a couple different ones. There's the vintage one, which is for the smaller plates. So, if you have a Fender with the longer bridge plate here, you're going to need the longer system. Since this is a vintage one, you can see same exact size. So that is important because, as you guys can see, check it out. It gets installed using the same exact holes from the bridge. So what we're going to do is take our pickup and, of course, use the same hardware, install our pickup, and then this sucker just gets anchored like so. So that is perfect. That's kind of like the stage 1 of the system. Right, now the next part of the install is to actually remove the string ferrules. And you can see here, I've removed 5 of the 6. I've had guitars where you remove the strings and the ferrules are so loose, they just basically come out by hand. If they stick out a bit, you could maybe use a pliers if you're really careful. These ones are flush mounted, so a little bit trickier. So what I've done is I've taken an adjuster bar. This is from a guitar with the truss rod, the spoke wheel truss rod adjuster right there. They all come with these little bars so that you can stick it in and, make your neck adjustments. Really handy. This has been working perfectly for me. So I'll do the 6th string together here. So I've just been putting it in the string hole like this, and then probably like a rubber mallet. I couldn't find mine, so I just have like a tiny little tack hammer. And then you just hammer through and it's just popped out. So there you go. Works perfectly, and then it should go back in pretty easy as well. So that's the next step. Pretty interesting. I've never had to do that for a trem install, but there's a reason for it. Let's jump back over to the desk. All right, we're ready for the next step. I would recommend taking all your old hardware that you removed from the guitar, put it in a Ziploc, and if you do regular mods, maybe just take a Sharpie and write down which guitar it's from. That way all your parts can stay together, and then you can just file them away. Okay, so next step is to actually remove all the adjusters off the springs. So what I'm going to do is remove all of these ends. You can see I've done one already. Oops, let's hang on to those. So yes, I will unscrew all of those, and then we're just left with kind of some threaded ends on those springs, and I'll be back. Well, you guys, we're pretty much wrapping up the install. The next step is to take our springs and put them down the individual string holes, such as this. See if I can do that. It's a little tricky. There we go. Wiggle them in. Boom. There it is. Now, one problem I ran into, there it is. Man, that looks slick. And then, of course, your bar with the Vegatrem logo. We'll get it all set up here. But anyway, one problem I did have, because this is not an official Fender body, and the holes here were all kind of painted in. When they painted the body, it was all glooped in. So I actually took a drill and just cleaned out those holes, each one of them. Now with an official Fender body, that might not be an issue at all. So once I widen those holes, then like I showed you guys before, each one of the springs goes down the string holes there, and then you can just kind of give it a little wiggle with just a slight downward pressure. And then there's two little blades that will, I'm just going to tip that up and engage them right now into the plate. There we go, and I'll take a close-up for you guys. So yes, there are two little blades that this is going to pivot on. So I just tipped that up, engaged that, and there we go. Now the next step is on the back side where we remove the string ferrules. And what we're going to do is, if you remember the parts I unscrewed from those the springs, those will each go back into the string ferrule and then get threaded in and locked down. All right, so I've added the adjusters in place of the string ferrules. That's what that looks like right there. Really cool. Each one of those can be adjusted if you need to, obviously, adjust the tension on the trem. If you want it decked, if you want it kind of floating, if you're using 9-gauge strings, if you're using 10s, you can adjust all that there. And then, yes, here's what the front looks like. I've got the bar in there. It just looks awesome. Yeah, really, really cool. So I'm going to string this up, and yeah, let's listen to some tones. As I said, compensated saddle, so obviously I'll set that up too. In terms of the heights, it comes with all the adjusters like Allen wrenches and that kind of stuff. So there you go. Really cool. Very like out of the box thinking. I would never think of, you know, a tele system that could just go straight on, could go back to stock, but looks like really cool and vintagey on the bar and stuff like that. But I have a feeling it's not going to be as finicky as, say, something like a Bigsby, which I do love. I love a Bigsby. But I have a feeling, knowing Vegatrem and having used their systems before with the blades, I got high hopes for this. I think it's going to be way less maintenance and have a much better return to center. But time will tell. So let's string it up. I'll be back, and then let's listen to some tones. Well, it's time to try out the Vegatrem for the first time. They did a really good job keeping it super clean. You know, if the bar wasn't in there, it would almost look stock. And that's very different than, say, a Bigsby where it's a big piece of hardware on the back of the guitar. Not everybody likes that, or maybe they don't want to, you know, drill the mounting holes into their guitar. They don't want the extra weight, whatever the case may be. Yeah, this is just very different. And of course, the strings are top loaded now because the springs are going through the back of the guitar, so the strings get top loaded. So here we go. Let's see how that bar handles. Yeah, so in terms of how it handles, much more like a Bigsby than I was initially expecting. You know, with the Vegatrem Strat system, it's all about like extreme articulation, like bombing down, pulling up, and always coming back to zero. This is a much more subtle system for a T-style guitar. So yeah. So here are my initial thoughts on the Vegatrem T-Style setup. Now, as I mentioned, this is very different than the Strat setup, which is an extreme bending up and down and everywhere and always coming back to zero. This is much more, you know, just those subtleties, just that little warble on your string. So yeah, it's a very different setup, but the design and how somebody came up with the system to put, you know, individual springs down the string holes and put adjusters at the back, like just crazy, crazy out of the box thinking. And in terms of how I adjusted this, I just used a screwdriver and made the tension on each one equal. And that's, you know, that was my starting point. And that's pretty much where I left it. So I know you can loosen it, tighten it. My only gripe, well, yeah, or recommendation is I'd love an extended bar just for that extra leverage and control. That's really the only thing, because this is pretty much a Strat length bar. So I wouldn't mind, like, yeah, an extended one, or at least an option of an extended one. But the design, crazy, definitely works. And in terms of like, you know, I haven't tuned it up since I played for you guys. It's still in tune. It's going to be a week or two like all trem systems before everything just really breaks in together. And I think it's going to hold tune even better. So I've got really high hopes in terms of tuning on this. So yeah, design, really cool. Out of the box thinking, holds tune. Pretty cool. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. As you know, I love to feature products like this that are just a little different. So hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Other than that, have yourself a great week. Take care.